Hello, good people of the internet. Welcome to Suzerain episode 11. Check out the playlist which we linked if you want to see previous episodes, and if you don't know what this is, then it's a political simulation game. I do lots of reading, I make lots of decisions, and who knows how good those decisions are. The last time we were talking to former president and current GASM, I don't know title, but he's in charge of it, let's say that, CEO something or other. We agreed some good things. The country will invest a bit in this, in line with Rizia, but also in return, they will improve the workers' rights or the living conditions and some of the infrastructure in the area around the region, which is a good thing. However, we left it on a bit of a cliffhanger because we have this decision. Decide on how to leave the Gasm facility. In the conversations, there were, I think, were there strikes before? I don't know. There were definitely protesters coming towards the door of the facility. And there was a decision, do we leave via Evald Alfonso's helicopter and just get away? Or do we go back the way we came, which is now crawling with protesters? A volatile situation has emerged outside the Gasm facility, with a sizable crowd of protesters amassing, their grievances fueled by underlying tensions, present a complex scenario for us to navigate. The decisions on our course of action could dramatically influence the outcome of this situation. So yeah, fly away in the helicopter, or address the protesters and leave via car. Now, I think that we are a popular president, and I think that we've got a good outcome from the meeting. So I'm tempted to calm them, address the protesters. However, I'm not sure if that's really the best action. But with some time to think between the episodes, I think that was the one I was going to go for. So we've made that decision. And now we get to address the protesters. As we stepped out of the towering front gate of the Gasm facility, I immediately became aware of how tense the situation was. Gus Manger stood to my right, his silhouette barely distinguishable from the monolithic edifice behind us. Serge stood to my left, his eyes scanning the crowd with the precision of a hawk. The Gasm security had drawn their weapons in anticipation, forming a bristling wall around the perimeter. My presidential guard, in stark contrast, stood tall and unflinching at the entrance, shielding us from the sea of angry workers surrounding us. The shouts of the crowd were deafening, the hostility palpable. Starla and Horton stood at the forefront with fire in their eyes. With a deep breath, I prepared to address them, Gus extending a megaphone towards me. A megaphone is a bit rubbish, but anyway. We have a choice. We can say that we're here today not as adversaries, but collaborators. Our purpose to invest in Gasm and ensure it invests in you. I mean, that's true. Hardworking employees, we stand with you today. Our shared goal is simple: to demand improving living and working conditions for everyone. Seeking understanding and progress, we aim to bridge the gap between Gasm and its employees. I want, before you do anything too rash, I want you to take a good look around you. No, I mean, we are doing the top one, right? I mean, the second one is maybe more in favor of them. But still. We are not blind to your struggles. We seek to acknowledge them, address them, and above all, improve them. Not a hollow promise, but a step towards a stronger and more balanced Swordland. Remember, we are united by a common goal, a prosperous Gasm that cares for its workers. It's a fight we must all face together. I mean, they're not going to care about the third one. Acknowledge, address, and above all, improve them. Or do we say, not a hollow promise? Let's say we're not blind to your struggles. speeches and more speeches from President Rain, but what exactly was decided today? We need more pretty words, we need substance. Remind me who this is? Independent MP and LUS leader. And this is the leader of the Communist Party. She's right, Mr. President, we need details what's going to change for the workers. Hold on a moment. President Rain is committed to bringing about real change. His actions and decisions demonstrate this clearly, even if it doesn't fit your narrative. So that's so. All we've seen are decisions that favour the likes of you and Evold, but not the common workers. It's not about narratives, it's about ensuring a fair and dignified life for the working class, something your policies have consistently failed to do. So we can say change is often slow and gradual. Not all solutions are as immediate and straightforward as you make them out to be. Focus here is not narratives or images, but on the real tangible changes. It's a process and we are on the right track. I assure you my administration is devoted to bring about better conditions for workers. It is. Would you really know? Let's just say, I assure you we're devoted to it. The words are compelling, but can they truly outweigh the years of corporate dominance? Sound noble, but intentions alone don't feed families or pay bills. We need concrete actions. What about the recent campaign finance bill? Mr. President, it's a direct attack on democracy, effectively silencing small parties like ours. Clear from your lack of commitment to education that you don't fully comprehend the scope of the challenges faced by our workers' families. Demand that you support the upcoming workers' rights bill. The labour force of all of them will be watching your next move closely. And they want reform, reduce the election threshold, and change the constitution to make a more democratic and fairer nation. I mean, we're trying to do that. Elect me to lead. Crucial to trust the government's judgment in these times. Campaign finance bill ensures fair funding for democratically elected parties. It's not an attack on democracy, but a measure to safeguard it. I'm not sure I agree on that, but concerns and frustrations many of you have, rest assured we are here, we're listening, and we're committed to addressing these issues. But they want like concrete actions. We must recognise that our country can't solve all of its problems at once. We're working hard to making progress, but our troubles won't simply vanish. Or we could just get angry. I mean, I don't want to go for talking about the workers' rights bill, because I can't remember pros and cons about it. Reform. I'd like there to be something about reform, ignoring the campaign rights bill. So it's either like 3 or 4. We're listening and committed to addressing these issues, or we say we are working hard on making progress, but our troubles won't simply vanish. Let's just say we're listening, committed to addressing these issues. Despite the sharp words exchanged, crowd remained eerily calm. It seemed like they were waiting their collective breath, held in anticipation of something more. Suddenly, a reporter pushed through the crowd, brandishing a microphone towards me. Locals on our board have suffered under the impact of Gassam for years. What concrete steps is Gassam going to take for the benefit of the local community? As a result of negotiation, Gassam is committed to improving the living conditions for its workers. This includes providing private housing, ensuring access to healthcare and education. Yes. Or we can say we'll now provide better housing, healthcare, and education for every worker. How is that different? Significantly better the lives of its employees, upgraded housing, assured healthcare, and the opportunities for education are now guaranteed. What is the difference between these things? Providing private housing and ensuring access to healthcare. Provide housing for every worker, now guaranteed. We'll just say as a result of our negotiations. And then we can be childish and say that they can stop whining. Today was a victory, even though it's hard to believe. Vital step towards building a more resilient workforce. The effort of this government will go down in history. Vital step, more resilient workforce. Change can be with the crowd. The angry shouts were replaced with cries of disbelief, then joy. Eventually, all fell silent as they waited for Dennis and Katerina to respond. If these promises materialize, it could mean a significant improvement in the lives of the comrades at Gassam. This is a start, albeit late. Let's hope it's not mere lip service. Private housing, healthcare, and education. That's indeed a shift from the status quo, Mr. President. While I commend this commitment to improve the lives of Gassam workers, we can only hope this is not just another political gambit. Group of figures emerged from the crowd, adorned in unmistakable scarlet attire. The Red Youth had arrived. Why are they here? No longer a mere protest, symbol of a broader, more potent struggle. Police began reorganizing their ranks, adopting defensive postures. Could you shed some light on the possible deal between the Swedish government and Gassam? What role does the Kingdom of Rizia play in this arrangement? In a show of international cooperation, Sweden and Rizia will jointly invest. Sharing the costs and stakes with Rizia, this way we're reducing financial pressure and fostering international relationships. Renewing its ties with Rizia, together we will provide the funding that Gassam and its workers need. Or we can say it's confidential. So international cooperation. Sure, I mean, they don't need details. Or we can say renewing its ties. We'll just say jointly invest. Partnership with Rizia, you're aware of the monarchy's history of stamping out disagreements with brute force. Be watching this co-investment closely. The government will be responsible for keeping its partners' worst tendencies in check. Nearby, Gassam's security officer and presidential guard members were conversing in hushed tones. Saw them glance over the crowd, now calmer, but still restless. Serge says, President Rain, while the crowd appears somewhat subdued, I would advise we exercise caution. It may be best to conclude your address and proceed to the vehicle. Be sure won't running away from this only make the protesters angrier. I mean, I don't want to say let's get out of here, but we should wrap up. I remain here, Mr. President. The crowd seems calm now. I believe I can answer their queries and maintain the peace. You should go ahead. Thank you for your willingness to address us. Let's continue these important conversations moving forward. Showing courage today. We'll see if your actions match words. Until next time. We've shown courage together. Now we will hold you accountable to your promises. The troubles of the labourers are not over, and neither is its work of our union. Is the work of our union. Shake their hands. Thanks to both of you. Do you shake their hands or you just say thanks? Shaking their hands is like, I'm on their side, but I'm just saying thanks. Flutter whispers rippled through the sea of onlookers, their eyes darting back and forth between us in surprise. A few broke into scattered applause. The initially hesitant clapping grew louder, and jubilant cheers and whistles filled the air. I saw the Red Youth members standing at the edge of the crowd with their arms folded, a hint of approval in their eyes. As I readied myself to leave, I turned back to Katerina and Dennis the last time. Dialogue has only started to show you both my commitment to progress and change is unwavering. Most wouldn't come out because most fear the truth. As for the conversation, it's always been going on. Job is to listen and act. As for accountability, isn't that what all governments should be held to? You have my word. Let's end your frustrations and the urge to voice your concerns. However, let's keep our discourse respectful and constructive. I mean, I like for maybe 3. Let's just go with 3. Marathon, not a sprint. Look forward to continuing conversations. Let's remember that we are here for the same reason, to better the lives of our citizens. Let's not allow our differences to blind us to our common goals. Path of progress is challenging and fraught with disagreement, but we must not let it divide us. Can ensure a prosperous future. So either 3 or 4 again. Path of progress is challenging and fraught with disagreement, but we must not let it divide us. Sure, let's go with that. Can you clarify the current status of your personal relationship with... No more questions. If you could please proceed to the vehicle. Open the door, lowered myself into the seat, door closed behind me with a thud, sealing off the external noise. Crowd began to disperse, the individuals breaking away. To let our convoy through, the guards took their position on thus forming a human barrier around the vehicle. Engine paired to life when we began to move. Glad we are safely on our way. Surge in this role, danger comes with territory, but your concern is appreciated. Little excitement to keep us on the toes. Agreed, Surge. Job well done by you and the team. Sure. We appreciate your acknowledgement. It's our duty and honour. Echoing voices of the protesters gradually subsided as we retreated from the scene and left Narble behind. And we get a ding. Okay, let's check the news. Gassam's blue-collar support, a win for traditional values. Yep. Sure. A leader who listens, President address at Gassam. So this looks positive. United we prosper. Sordon and Rizia's combined investment in Gassam signals fresh approach to international relations. I'm glad they think so. I reckon something over here will be a bit more negative about it. Speaking of hope. Met with overwhelming positive response from the crowd. Gassam worker welfare takes a leap forward. Innovative co-investment boosts Gassam. A triumph for worker activism. Well, how rare is it that you see no negative news? I guess that means we played it right. There is a report over here. British Freedom Front under new leadership. Security forces have gathered intel regarding a hidden meeting among local leaders of the separatist group British Freedom Front that occurred a few days ago. It is suspected that they have elected a new leader in the meeting. Arwelin Arj, who is the brother of the infamous former leader, Julian Arj. Yeah, I don't know. Owlin? This development could have serious implications for national security, as the British Freedom Front has been known to use violent means to achieve their goals. Their situation calls for increased surveillance and intelligence gathering to prevent any potential threats posed by the organization and its new leadership. I see. And what else have we got going on? Things in the overview. The economy, state co-investment with Gassam is a policy. The situation, there's more red than green. Anyway, Stability Order of 1954. An order to stop the operations of destabilizing youth organizations. An investigation on the influence of the Young Swords and Red Youth organizations on the post-assassination unrest has concluded both organizations haven't officially organized or called for illegal actions, but several low to mid-level leaders from both have links to insightful actions that led to deaths, injuries, and instability. This allows us to ban the organizations. And we could ban one, the other, both, or neither. I feel like haven't officially organized or called for illegal actions is probably the key point. There are bad actors within the organizations, but they should be stamped out. If you make it illegal, then you just have underground organizations. I think we go with don't ban. But we need to, you know. change the way that they do things. Well, we have gone with don't ban. So we can either talk about the finalization of drafted constitutional changes or the Grunny Regeneration and Ecological Economic Nurturing Act, the Green Bill, has been passed. Okay, is that going to cost me some government budget, though? It will cost me government budget, which is a bit annoying. Green has been proposed by the Assembly, aiming to encourage a more sustainable approach to industry in Grunny, which is that region. Section 1 of this act would impose strict regulations on industrial pollution and waste disposal, particularly in the Grunny region. Businesses not complying with these new standards may face hefty fines, the revenue from which would be invested back into the environmental recovery projects. Section 2 proposes to offer tax breaks to businesses that can demonstrate a significant reduction in their environmental impact over a period of time. A small investment fund is created for eco-friendly business practices. Now, the government, I would probably prefer, whilst we don't have a lot of budget to do this, but in the hope that it will improve economy, well, it's mostly going to improve eco-friendly things, but there's kind of extra businesses here who will be happy, so maybe we just sign it. We have signed it. We have lost an extra budget. I'm really hoping that we get more budget soon. More news stories. Green Act signed, a leap in the dark? Question mark. Signing Green Act into law has been met with skepticism. While the intent behind the act promoting sustainability and environmental responsibility is admirable, there are concerns that it might place undue burden on businesses, potentially hindering economic growth. Yeah, exactly. Legislation could have significant impacts on the local industry, and its long-term effects remain to be seen. A victory for the environment. So yeah, you don't know if it's going to improve the economy or make it worse, because more red tape or green tape is going to mean businesses may prefer not to do business, find it harder to do business. We are now going to finalization of the drafted constitutional changes. I was walking to my office since today was the day to edit and make the final changes for the proposal to change the constitution of Swordland. The Reform Committee finally brought tangible results, and the draft of the changes were about to be presented to me. I walked in the marble corridors of the palace thinking about the huge decisions I was going to take. At the entrance to my office, my secretary, Livia, greeted me. Good morning, Mr. President. I could say good morning, or I can ask how she is today. I mean, good morning is the normal response. You could say good morning and then ask how you are. That's gone. Fine. Great. More importantly, how are you? Yeah, fine. About to make stressful decisions, so not feeling that great. I mean, this whole game is stressful decisions, but I feel better now that I've seen you. Inappropriate. Sorry to hear she paused before taking my coat. It looked like she had something on her mind. Mr. Rain, can you give me a hint about your reform plans? If you ask me, taking away the judge's immunity is long overdue, but it might anger a lot of people in these halls. Nothing's been decided yet. It's none of your business. I'll just say nothing's been decided yet, because that's the truth. I hope you'll keep me informed. I'll take your coat now. I mean, it didn't really give me an option to keep her informed, because, like I say, nothing has been decided. Also, you're a secretary. Like, as in, you'll find out, because you'll be handing over paperwork and all that stuff. So how would I not keep you informed? Anyway, hung up the coat, entered the office, sat down. Not long after, Peta, Lucia, and Nia arrived. Greetings, finally. Good morning. Let's go with good morning, because we're, nice and polite. Remind me who she is, Minister of Justice. Aha. Time to finally get this proposal going. Place the draft in front of me. After your modifications, we will be starting the process. Let's start. Can we go over each of the points that are in discussion for the draft? Apart from the first two sections of decreasing the Supreme Court's authority and limiting the presidential vetoes, nothing else has been agreed on unanimously. We could start talking about Section 3. This is about the impeachment process of the president. Currently, in cases of high treason and breaking the Constitution, the Supreme Court may impeach and try the president. As in trial. Most reformists want the impeachment to be initiated by the Assembly. They think they do not have any power over potential rogue presidents that would abuse their power. To be initiated by the Assembly. Right. I'm not sure if it's correct to chastise the president this much, though. The Assembly should have oversight over the president. Yes, they should. This law is particularly dangerous for you. In this case, we will be going against the old guard, and if we prove to be successful in the Assembly, they will be looking for anything they can declare unconstitutional to tackle you. All they need is the Supreme Court to impeach you. What if we don't succeed? The court can have me impeached for this. Maybe reforms are not a great idea after all. We should define a better impeachment process. We could even remove impeachment altogether. Well, we still want reforms. We could even remove impeachment. No. The court, when it says succeed, we'll be going against the old guard if we prove to be successful with putting the reforms in place. Influential leaders within the government. The nature of this group, however, are subjects of considerable debate and speculation, often associated with theories of a deep state. Whatever. The court can have me impeached for this. I think I don't really understand what it's meaning by succeed, but at the moment, Section 3 is saying the Supreme Court can impeach and try the president. So, if we change it to the Assembly, then the Supreme Court still has, if we fail with that, then the Supreme Court still has the power, right? Yes, they're already trying to hit you since they are aware about the current wind of change, but we aim to cooperate with some of the judges to make sure that doesn't happen. Make sure the old guards won't control the court any longer. Section 4, this is regarding the appointment of ministers. Currently, the president is free to appoint anyone from the members of the Assembly. Nobody else is involved with the process. There is definitely a demand to involve the Assembly in the process. That's going a bit far. I mean, it probably should be, it's the choice of the president to choose who his top team is. There are still voted in members of parliament. I guess you could introduce a confidence vote. That was her suggestion as well. I'm sure the reformists would completely support that. The fifth section is about our infamous electoral threshold. Most reformists want to lower that threshold as much as possible. Mr. Richter and his PFJP definitely wants to see change on this topic. They find our 10% threshold to be democratic, which is something I also agree with. Yes, but this is a delicate matter of the party, and I mean, not even Albin wants us to change the threshold. They think that this would destroy a party in the long term. Not wrong, the 10% threshold is what? That allowed us to control half the assembly with around 1/3 of the majority in the elections. But the higher threshold is the reason why Swedish politics has become so isolated. We should definitely work to decrease the threshold for a better representation. Do you think it would really hurt the party? This is our question. Let's go with the top one. I mean, it doesn't sound like it is isolated. There seems like there's lots of things in there, but decrease the threshold for better representation. Just mention the fact, even after Sol's resignation, we still have the 3 parties in the assembly. Even Mr. Kivner's NFP was barely elected. Don't forget that the Communist Party and the Workers' Party of Lydia both had close to 10% vote in the last election. Would be opening their way into the parliament in the future if you were to decrease the threshold. It is important that you realise this. Of course, that would also mean the USP might lose its majority in the assembly. If our own democracy is the reason of our downfall, we will have to accept it. With these reforms will be even more popular. Can't just give away our own majority, can't allow communists to enter the assembly. If our own democracy is the reason for our downfall, we will have to accept it. And agreement. Section 6, this is about the presidential decrees. Reforms demand more limitations to the president's executive powers. Mr. Richter has demanded them to be completely removed. Suggested to bring some limitations to decrees regarding their applicability. While we keep them, we should try to make sure they will only be used in emergency situations. We could also make it depend on an enabling act from the assembly. Sure, it would make the whole process longer, but as long as we have a majority, nothing really changes. I don't really know when it says the decrees, which things it's really talking about. Limit the use. I don't think presidential decrees need reforms. Some limitations. While we keep them, we should try to make sure they will only be used in emergency situations. Limit the use of them. Friends will probably demand that we remove them completely, but he forgets that Sweden is a presidential republic. Next one is section 7, term limits. I don't aim to leave anytime soon. Keep unlimited terms. Term limits are necessary. Yeah, they are. I agree, we can't allow somebody like Sol holding on to onto a seat for 2 decades again. If people keep electing one person, that means they really are content. That's not the same. It depends what I mean. Term limits and term length. But still, you should have term limits. That means they already are content. Masses are scared of change. Even Saul knew he had to leave, but we will have leave it to the president to decide. He did, but it took a long time. I agree people should be able to elect the same person if they want to. Seriously consider the options before settling on one. Took a long time. Now I'll move on to the 8th section. We are reaching the end. It's the question about the immunity of the judges. While the anti-old guard sentiment is increasing, there are talks that taking away their immunity would give us authority over judiciary. I do not support taking away the power for yourself. Mr. President, the judiciary must be independent and long-lasting. Taking away their power for yourself. While I agree that the current court members are problematic, this is no way to resolve it. The law is supposed to ensure the judiciary's independence by giving legal protection so they can't be pressured. While they need absolute immunity in theory, But look at what reality got us. We've got to deal with the most corrupt Chief Justice in the world with no chance to deal with him. Respect their immunity. They should be able to be impeached. Why do I get to be impeached but not them? We should crush the old guards to clear ways for further reforms. Maybe we shouldn't make the Supreme Court our enemies just yet. Supreme Court immunity. I mean, you know, it should be immunity for the decisions that they make. But if they, you know, run over a small child and should be done for murder, dangerous driving, and all that stuff, and they go, well, I'm immune, that's obviously not okay. Or if they're clearly doing something bad, then less obvious than running over a small child, then again. Let's mention impeachment. Exactly. But it would be tougher to persuade the judges with this. Mrs. Edmonds may not want to cooperate with you if they believe you're going to get rid of them afterwards. And the last one is the question about Saul's legacy. Basically, his member of honor law, it gave him absolute immunity. Even when he's retired, he's a permanent member of the assembly as well, but luckily he doesn't really attend anymore. According to the Constitution, the member of honor not only has legal immunity, but the state also covers most of their expenses, as well as providing security at all times. It can only be given to someone by an absolute majority vote in the assembly and the approval of the president. That's why only Tarquin Saul has the title. He basically gave himself this right, made to save the colonel, and it has a symbolic importance of Solon because of it. Must get rid of the census law that protects him. He should be able to face justice for the atrocities that had taken place during his rule. Respect law. We could keep the title but take away the immunity clause. Yeah. I mean, you could do with security. That would be enough to hold him accountable for his actions, but why would you want to keep such a title? See no problem with having a special title for great heroes. It's just a title. Regardless of what Mr. Rain decides, we will need to work together to push this agenda. Let's start working on the draft. After placing the committee's report and my own notes in front of me, I buried myself in the papers. I see. We are going to decide on all these constitutional changes. Do we presidential vetoes? According to Article 77 and 82, the president may veto a bill by returning it to the assembly with a written statement. The articles do not contain any information on how to override a veto. As a consequence, the president has an absolute veto power that cannot be overridden with a supermajority in the Grand Assembly. So I can remove vetoes or limit them. I mean, it says next, but I wonder if there's a back. So I can limit vetoes, a 3/5 majority can override. Return it to the assembly with a written statement, how to override the veto. So yeah, it's like I would veto it, and then they can, if they still vote 60%, then they can override the veto. I mean, I should just remove vetoes. Right? But it could be really useful. Let's see if there's a back button. Okay, there is a back button. Okay, good. So I can always go back and change that. According to Article 5 of the Constitution, an amendment that has the support of at least 150 signatures may be proposed to the GNA. 2/3 majority vote in the GNA and a simple majority vote in the Supreme Court is required for the amendment. As a consequence, the Supreme Court, which is not part of the elected legislative branch, has voting rights that give them enormous power in the amendment process. Remove their voting rights. According to Article 17, the President of Sweden is not responsible for the actions performed in the exercise of presidential duties, except in the case of high treason or violation of the Constitution. In such cases, the President may be impeached by the Supreme Court in joint session with an absolute majority of its members. Therefore, the impeachment process only includes the Supreme Court, and it gives them great power over the executive. Assembly and Supreme Court may impeach with majority in both. Sure. Appointment of ministers. According to the Constitution, the President appoints its ministers. Council, sure, we may introduce a confidence vote by adding the line, the President may nominate ministers, which will require a confidence vote from the GNA for their appointment, or include the Assembly, or in the process with GNA may nominate a list of ministers which the President may appoint. Confidence vote is required. The Assembly nominates the ministers. I think confidence vote is better for me. Assembly nominating them is probably fairer, more reformist. According to Article 50, a political party needs a minimum of 10% on the national vote to win seats in the Grand National Assembly. The votes of the parties who pass the threshold are redistributed proportionally, meaning USP, which currently holds the lead, would be the main beneficiary. Decreasing the threshold may allow the Workers' Party of Blodia and the Communist Party of Sweden to be elected in the next elections. Let's decrease it. Presidential decrees, according to Article 18 at 51. I want to go back to the beginning. Even though I think I said remove the vetoes, is probably the thing to do. Let's just go limit them for now. Keep people on side. I don't know which people, not the reformers, clearly. Confidence vote, sure. Decrease threshold, sure. Yes. According to Article 18 and 51, the President is able to issue decrees on political, social, and economic issues that would carry the force of law. They would not contradict the Constitution and are subject to judicial review. Therefore, the President may issue decrees in many subjects without going through the GNA. However, the Assembly may pass legislation on the same subjects to override the presidential decrees. We may include the Assembly in the process by requiring an enabling act from the Assembly to be able to enact decrees or remove them completely, making the Assembly the sole lawmaking authority. Decrees require an enabling act. Remove presidential decrees. Decrees require an enabling act. So basically, I can bring my own things, but it still requires a vote. Which means it's almost, you might as well remove them, but introduce term limit. Okay. According to the Constitution, the President shall be elected to serve for 4 years. However, there is no minimum term limit, allowing one individual to be able to be elected to serve as President without limits. Introduce term limit of 2. Yes. Constitution gives justices of the Supreme Court absolute immunity before the law and describes no procedure of impeachment, making them untouchable by other branches of government. We may describe an impeachment procedure by giving the GNA the right to propose an impeachment of the justice on the legal grounds of unconstitutional behaviour. And that's what I'm worried about, because yes, I need the justices to approve this. So yeah, I feel like if I don't do this, then I'm not going to get any approval from the Supreme Court. which means it's almost necessary. I would really like to have this one, though. Member of Honor, rights of Tarquin Soul. Constitution defines Member of Honor title and the rights their members may exercise. Member of Honor has absolute immunity and is not considered to be a permanent member of the GNA, and is considered. They are given control of their own personal security team provided by the state's presidential guards. The member is also eligible to live in a special private residence provided by the state for free. Any person who holds the title is Tarquin Soul. Abolish the member. Every president becomes a member after their service. Remove the immunity. I could do that and that because they're kind of exclusive, but fine. We will remove the immunity. Do it in baby steps. And then click finish. Are you sure about your decisions? No. But yes. That's a lot of decisions. What is going to go wrong? All of it. After I made the final changes for the proposal, I showed it to my team. They read the changes and discussed it amongst themselves. Lucian spoke afterwards. Looks like the amendments are ready to be proposed, but I have to say this too. The new electoral threshold will be really difficult for the party to accept. Our guy is not fond of that idea. That's true. It'll be tough to get all of their support. Some of our members may try to openly fight against this. I'm prepared to reconsider if it comes to that. Sure. We will do our best to make it work. So any other comments before we proceed? Don't think we will have any problems with the changes. Me neither. Looks like we can proceed immediately. I will personally work on the wording of this proposal with my handpicked legal experts. With her reputation as the most experienced attorney, this proposal will be bulletproof. Chief Justice also will have a hard time convincing others to oppose it. In the meantime, you must introduce this proposal to our party. You'll need to get them to back us if we want to pass the assembly. So I advise you first talk to the leaders of both conservative and reformist wings of the party. As far as I'm aware, Ms. Clement supports reforms already. Mr. Story will be the real problem. She became a real heavyweight after we left for the executive. Any advice regarding dealing with them? As he said, Clement will probably be easier to persuade. We need to unite the party under this, so his support is vital. Gloria will be tougher to break. The problem is that she's capable of turning the moderates and the conservatives against us. As much as I want to say this, if she makes demands to change the proposal, you may need to give in. Thanks for the advice. Understood. Let's just say thanks. Wish you good luck with the party, sir. Think we can end the meeting here. We all shook hands and they left the room. And with that huge number of decisions made, I think this is where we will put a cut in. I would thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like and it will convince me to keep going with this. Please subscribe if you want to see more or see other things on the channel. And again, I want to thank you for watching and I hope you have a great day.